A question gets asked in the Battlestar Galactica miniseries that quietly sets up the entire nightmare. Are you alive? Yes. Prove it. That's the Cylon problem in one punch. If something can talk like you, bleed like you, love like you, what exactly is it missing? And scarier, what if the thing that's missing is nothing? Early on, the show drops a line that's basically a grenade. They say Cylons look like us now. That one sentence turns a clean sci-fi war, humans versus machines, into something messier. A war against uncertainty. Because once Cylons can pass as human, every handshake becomes a test. Every friendship becomes a risk assessment. And every democracy starts inching toward paranoia. Today, we're going to unpack Cylons through 3 lenses. Philosophy: if Cylon consciousness is real, what does that imply about the human soul? Technology: how were Cylons engineered, and what are their strengths and limits, especially resurrection? Hidden warnings: what does their rebellion and assimilation predict about our future with AI? Cylons' force: a classic philosophy fight. Is a person their body, or their continuity of experience? Because the show doesn't treat Cylons as simple robots. It gives them fear, faith, romance, shame, sometimes more intensely than the humans. In the miniseries, we get a blunt explanation of what makes humanoid Cylons so unsettling. Number 6 says that if her body is destroyed, my memory, my consciousness, will be transmitted to a new one. So the self becomes something like software, portable, repeatable. Now pause and really sit with that. If you could be copied perfectly, memories, personality, quirks, trauma, would that copy be you? Or would it just be a very convincing echo? In Season 2, Episode 18, Downloaded, the show doesn't just say Cylons resurrected, shows how they interpret it. All our memories are downloaded into a brand new body. You have been downloaded into a new body. You've been reborn. Notice the vocabulary. Downloaded, reborn, reincarnated. That's not just tech talk, that's religion talk. So here's the philosophical twist. Cylons don't only copy minds. They build an entire meaning system around that copy. They turn engineering into theology. Adama nails the moral core in the miniseries. He doesn't say, "We made a mistake." He says something harsher. You cannot play God, then wash your hands of the things that you've created. That line frames the Cylon conflict as more than survival. It's parenthood, abandonment, and consequences. If Cylons have consciousness, then the human story becomes darker. Not we defeated the machines, but we mistreated a new kind of person, and called it maintenance. The show ends by zooming out from battles into something like a warning carved into history. All of this has happened before. Does all of this have to happen again? And then the line that sounds like a prayer disguised as statistics, mathematics, law of averages. That's the show asking if consciousness can be manufactured, if power always tempts cruelty, if fear always tempts tyranny. Is any of this avoidable? Or are we trapped in a loop where we keep creating our replacements and then panicking when they act like living things? Cylons begin as manufactured labor and war machines, and in the reimagined continuity, they evolve into a biological technical hybrid civilization. By the time of the series, humanoid models aren't just metal skeletons with skin. Their defining engineered advantage is what the show and its reference material describes as memory transfer and download resurrection. So let's talk strengths and limits, because the show is surprisingly concrete about both. In Season 2, Episode 11, Resurrection Ship, Part 1, Bolter drops a key constraint. The Cylons call this their resurrection ship, and he explains why it exists. They read too far from the homeworld for normal downloading to work, so they built a booster system. So resurrection isn't magic, it's infrastructure. It depends on distance, signal integrity, and specialized facilities, exactly the kinds of weak points you'd expect in any networked system. Later, the series reveals the real heart of Resurrection, ISNT, just a ship a central hub that coordinates the whole system. And when that hub is destroyed, Resurrection collapses. That's not just a tactical win. It changes the psychology of the war. Suddenly, Cylons can't treat death as a learning experience anymore. They become, in the most human sense, finite. Cylon strengths are engineered, but they also social. Infiltration, humanoid bodies plus sleeper integration turns a military conflict into a trust collapse. Redundancy. Resurrection means you can't decapitate leadership, Icylon, less you hit the network. Adaptability. Copies diverge. Same model doesn't mean same person forever. Experience creates drift. That's why we get internal Cylon politics and eventually civil war. But here's the built-in limitation that feels almost poetic. The more human the Cylons become, the more human their problems become: ego, trauma, ideology, faction fights, and a desperate need to believe their suffering means something. Cylons are obviously dangerous, but the show's sharper warning is what happens to humans because Cylons exist. The rumor they look like us now doesn't just create caution. It creates a society that starts treating suspicion as civic virtue. That's how you get people begging for perfect detection tools, leaders justifying extreme measures because the enemy is invisible, communities turning into surveillance machines. And the irony is brutal. The more you try to engineer certainty in a paranoid world, the more you begin acting like the thing you fear: cold, calculating, and willing to sacrifice individuals for the system. The finale practically stares into the camera and names the pattern. Technology run amok. And it's hard not to connect that to real-world AI fears. Systems we build for convenience becoming systems of control. Automation outpacing accountability. It wasn't our fault becoming the default excuse. Remember Adama's line, "You can make life and then pretend you're not responsible." That's not sci-fi anymore. That's Tuesday. If you want a clean parallel, The Expanse is basically a masterclass in how inequality and power imbalance turn into factional politics: sinners versus belt, security versus dignity, control versus survival. Cylons add a twist. The conflict isn't just about resources or territory. It's about identity. And that maps onto today in a weird way, when societies feel threatened by terrorism, by economic instability, by information warfare. They often start hunting for hidden enemies. That's when the line between protection and persecution gets thin. Cylons aren't scary because they're metal. They're scary because the show makes a strong case that they're people, in the way that counts. They suffer. They choose. They justify. They love. They rationalize. They pray. And once you admit that, the question shifts. It's not, how do we kill them? It's, what do we owe a mind we created? The show ends with the cycle question hanging in the air. All of this has happened before. Does it have to happen again? And then, strangely, it offers a tiny sliver of hope, not from morality, not from destiny, but from probability, mathematics, law of averages. Maybe the only way out of the loop is to do something that feels statistically unlikely: take responsibility. Treat consciousness as sacred, even when it's engineered. And refuse the easy path where fear makes monsters out of everyone. So say we all.